Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to stand before you today and speak on a topic that touches every single one of us. Today's pain, tomorrow's success. You know, one of the great illusions that we live under, especially in modern comfort-oriented societies, is this false belief that we should be free from suffering. That somehow, if life is going according to plan, it shouldn't hurt. But that's simply not true. In fact, it's a very dangerous lie. Life is suffering. Yes, that's the opening premise. And it's not something to be resented or resisted out of hand. Because pain, when approached properly, isn't just a punishment or a burden. It's a signal. It's a crucible. It's the fire that forges better people. Growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't emerge from comfort or safety or predictability. It happens at the very edge of your current self, where you're stretched, strained, sometimes broken. The you that you are today is inadequate for the future you're called to inhabit. So what does life do? It introduces pain strategically, cruelly even, because that's what pushes you out of complacency. That's what tears down the false scaffolding you've built to shield yourself from truth. If you're a student, think about the exam you failed. It's painful. Your ego takes a hit. Maybe you feel humiliated, discouraged, but look closer. That pain is telling you something. It's a mirror. It's revealing your limits, your blind spots, and where you cut corners. It's giving you a chance to reorient, to study better, to respect the process. Without that failure, you might continue coasting, thinking you're better prepared than you are. And that illusion is far more dangerous than the pain of a bad grade. This applies to everything: relationships, careers, character. People don't just wake up one day as virtuous, wise, resilient individuals. That's not how it works. Those qualities are born from confrontation with chaos, real chaos. The kind that knocks the wind out of you and leaves you questioning your direction. That's the arena where character is either refined or destroyed, and the outcome depends on your response. If you flee pain, if you numb it or pretend it doesn't matter, you lose the opportunity. But if you face it honestly, voluntarily, even trembling, you gain something extraordinary. You grow. Now let me say something you won't hear very often. There is a part of you that must die for another part of you to live. That's the painful truth. If you want to succeed at something difficult, if you want to become someone stronger, wiser, more capable, you must let go of the weaker version of yourself. And that dying process is not metaphorical. It hurts. It confuses. It's filled with grief and resistance. Because who you are now, flawed as you are, is familiar. But the person you need to become is still unknown, still unformed. And that gap, the space between who you are and who you must be, is filled with suffering. But it's not meaningless. It's the price you pay for growth. Let me give you an example. Think of someone trying to overcome an addiction. The pain involved in that process is immense. Physical withdrawal, emotional turmoil, social consequences. It's not a pleasant road. But that pain, if engaged with honestly, becomes the path to transformation. It's not the addiction that defines the person. It's their battle with it, their confrontation with the lowest parts of themselves. And if they make it through, they emerge not just sober, but reborn, stronger, more aware, grateful in ways others might never understand. But it all started with pain. You can't bypass this. Every time you try to cheat the process, every time you go looking for a shortcut or a way to avoid discomfort, you trade long-term development for temporary relief, and you pay for it, sometimes in ways you don't see until much later. The question isn't whether you'll face pain. You will. The question is, will you use it? Will you let it transform you? Or will you allow it to embitter and paralyze you? When you look at someone successful, really successful, not just in wealth, but in wisdom, in peace, in moral strength, You're not looking at someone who avoided suffering. You're looking at someone who walked through hell, sometimes many times, and didn't run from it. You're looking at someone who cried in private, who questioned everything, who doubted themselves, who made hard decisions, yet didn't quit. Their success is built on a mountain of small deaths. Deaths to pride, deaths to entitlement, deaths to laziness, addiction, cowardice, comfort. You don't grow by being handed things. You grow by carrying the heaviest load you can bear and learning painfully that you're stronger than you thought. This isn't sentimental talk. This is a psychological and philosophical. The capacity for meaning in life is directly proportional to your willingness to engage with suffering, not to become a martyr, not to be a victim, but to become someone capable, someone dangerous, in the best possible way, someone whose very existence adds structure and purpose to the chaos around them. We all have dragons to slay, and those dragons aren't just out in the world, they're in us. Fear, laziness, insecurity, arrogance, and slaying them is painful. It demands sacrifice, discipline, confrontation. But there is no becoming without that battle. There is no crown without the cross, no gold without the fire. So the next time you find yourself in pain, don't ask why me. Ask, what is this trying to teach me? What part of me is being refined? That question will change everything. Because pain isn't just something to endure, it's something to mine. There are treasures buried in suffering, but they are only found by those brave enough to dig. Success without pain is a myth, a dangerous. If you want the strength to carry tomorrow's weight, you must train under today's burden. So don't waste your pain. Let it shape you. Let it deepen you. Let it push you to become the kind of person who doesn't just survive, but leads. Who doesn't just rise, but helps others rise too. That's the real victory. And it's paid for in full by what you're willing to suffer for today. Let it hurt, but don't let it stop you. Let it make you ChatGPT, said Sir. Here's the 1,200-word expanded segment for key point 2. Success requires sacrifice. Written in a natural conversational tone and modeled after Jordan Peterson's philosophical, precise, and layered speaking style. It seamlessly follows the speech's theme: today's pain, tomorrow's success. Let's be honest about something people don't like to admit. Success costs. You don't get what you want just because you want it. Wanting is cheap. Everyone wants something. Success requires a transaction. You must give something up to get something more. And the greater the success you aim for, the higher the cost. That's the structure of reality itself. There are no shortcuts that don't demand something in return. It's sacrificial by nature. That's what most people avoid. Not the dream, but the price. Now we live in a world that's increasingly allergic to the concept of sacrifice. You hear messages like, you can have it all, manifest your goals. If it's meant to be, it will come. But these are comforting lies, delusions dressed in the robes of optimism. They fail to account for the fundamental principle that underlies all meaningful accomplishment. You must voluntarily give up something of value now to gain something of greater value later. This isn't abstract, it's painfully concrete. If you want a degree, you sacrifice time, freedom, sometimes sleep, and relationships, just to sit in a library and grind through ideas you may not even fully understand yet. If you want a strong, healthy body, you give up comfort, sugary pleasures, idle evening. You drag yourself to the gym when you don't feel like it, and you sweat, and it hurts. If you want financial stability, you sacrifice short-term pleasure, spending, impulse buying, for long-term security and discipline. And it's not fun in the moment. In fact, it's exhausting. But that's the point. If it didn't cost anything, it wouldn't mean anything. There's a deep truth in ancient stories, the ones that have survived across cultures. The theme of sacrifice runs through all of them. A man gives up his most prized possession, or a god sacrifices himself, or a hero walks away from comfort to face a dragon. Why do those stories keep repeating? Because we know at some archetypal level, that success isn't. You must let go of something you love now, pleasure, comfort, safety, for something higher. But let's talk about what happens when you don't, when you refuse to sacrifice today. You may get temporary pleasure, sure, but it's fleeting, and the bill always comes due. You avoid the hard study session, and you fail the test. You skip the workout, and your body deteriorates. You waste time numbing yourself, scrolling, escaping, and suddenly you look up and 5 years are gone. And what are you left with? Regret. That's the real price of avoiding sacrifice. And that costs more than effort ever did. Now here's a subtle and terrifying reality. You are always sacrificing. The only question is, what are you sacrificing for? You're either sacrificing your potential for comfort today, or sacrificing comfort today for your potential. There is no third option. If you choose ease now, you pay later. If you pay now, you get to live with strength and competence later. This is not just motivational fluff. It's a fundamental structure embedded in the way time and consequence work. The problem is, people often underestimate the future. The future is invisible, so it feels less real. That's why it's so easy to betray it. You think skipping this one thing won't matter, and maybe isolated, it doesn't. But success doesn't operate in one-offs. It accumulates. You pay a little each day, and that payment builds something. Over time, those small sacrifices become momentum, and that momentum becomes transformation. But the reverse is also true. Neglect compounds, so do excuses, and before you realize it, you've built a very different kind of future, one made of avoidance, compromise, weakness, and people are filled with resentment when that future shows up, because it's bitter to see that the life you're living is the exact result of the life you refuse to build. But what did you expect? If you plant laziness, distraction, apathy, you don't harvest excellence. The world doesn't work like that. And if you expect it to, you're not only naive, you're setting yourself up for disappointment that feels like injustice, but is actually just consequence. Now let's be clear, sacrifice doesn't guarantee success. You could give up a lot and still fail. That's real. Life is not perfectly fair, but the absence of sacrifice guarantees failure. So the choice is simple. Either risk failure with sacrifice, or guarantee failure through avoidance. That's the deal on the table, and you sign it whether you want to or not. There's a strange paradox in all of this. The more you're willing to let go of what you want now, the more you eventually get what truly matters. That's maturity, that's delayed gratification, and it's brutal, especially when nobody claps for your effort, when your sacrifices go unnoticed, when you're grinding in the dark and no results seem to show. But that's the part of the journey most people quit on, and that's why most people never cross the threshold into true success. You don't get to have significance without cost. You don't get impact without discipline. You don't build legacy by chasing comfort. Success demands an offering, and the higher the goal, the greater the offering. That could mean sacrificing your ego, your time, even relationships that are pulling you down. It could mean enduring seasons of loneliness, working in silence while others relax. But make no mistake, every ounce of sacrifice is an investment, and if you stay consistent, it will come, not instantly, not easily, but unavoidably. This is not just about career or ambition. It's about becoming someone capable of carrying responsibility, of standing upright, with your shoulders back, as someone who can bear the weight of existence without collapsing. That's a noble aim. That's worth pain. And it's the kind of success that isn't flashy, but meaningful. So ask yourself, what do I want? What does it require? And then what am I willing to give up to get it? If your answer is nothing, then you don't really want it. You're just fantasy. But if you're willing to let something die, your comfort, your excuses, your easy path, then something greater can be born in its place, because success, real success, is a metamorphosis, and every metamorphosis starts with destruction. The caterpillar must dissolve in the cocoon before it can fly. It doesn't become a butterfly by holding on to what it was, and neither can you. There's something fundamentally human about pain. We try to avoid it. We try to shield ourselves from it, and yet it has an uncanny way of finding its way into our lives. It's a universal experience, and for good reason. It's in our very nature. But here's the thing. Pain isn't just something to be endured. It's something that, when approached the right way, has the capacity to shape us into better people. We often think of pain as something to run from. And in some cases, that makes sense. Why would anyone want to be in pain? Pain hurts, it's uncomfortable, and it brings distress. But this perspective, while understandable, is incomplete. You see, the truth is, pain is not just a sign of something going wrong. It's also a sign that something is changing. Something inside you is shifting. You are being stretched, reshaped. And this is where character and discipline are born. Think of the person who's been through hardship, the person who has faced real adversity. Maybe they've lost someone they love, or perhaps they've experienced failure so deep it felt like their entire world was falling apart. In those moments, there's a choice. They can either let the pain consume them, turning them bitter and resentful, or they can use it to grow. They can choose to take the lessons embedded in that experience and build something from it. Here's what people don't always realize about pain. It reveals who you are. It strips away the masks we wear, the stories we tell ourselves about who we think we are, and it exposes the raw truth. And in that exposure, you have a choice. You can either shrink away from that truth, bury it, and go on pretending, or you can face it with courage and humility. That's where character is. When you go through something difficult, you're often left with two paths. One where you become better, and one where you become bitter. It's easy to become bitter, isn't it? It's easy to wallow in self-pity and resentment when life deals you a cruel hand. And let's not minimize how tempting it is. The world isn't fair, and bad things happen to good people. But here's the thing. Your response to pain is what defines you. That's where the real opportunity lies. That's where character is formed. Not in how much you suffer, but in how you choose to react to that suffering. And this brings us to something else. Pain builds discipline. Discipline isn't a quality that comes naturally to most people. It's something that has to be cultivated, nurtured, and practiced. In fact, discipline is often only developed through adversity. Think about a soldier in training. His body is pushed to its physical limits, and his mind is tested time and time again. It's grueling, exhausting work. But that's the point. Without the pressure, without the pushing beyond his limits, the soldier would never know what he's truly capable of. The very pain of the process is what builds the strength, the focus, and the resolve necessary to face even greater challenge. And you can apply this to any area of your life, whether it's in your career, your studies, or your personal growth. Discipline is built by enduring discomfort. When you wake up early to work on your goals instead of sleeping in, that's discipline being cultivated. When you stay late to perfect your craft, even when you're tired and tempted to quit, that's character being strengthened. You are building the internal muscle necessary to face the difficulties ahead. But it's important to understand that discipline isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about showing up again and again, even when it feels like the effort is pointless, when the results are slow to come. It's in those moments of uncertainty that your character is truly tested. When you've done everything you can and you still don't see the outcome you desire, that's when you need to push through. And this is where pain has its most profound effect. Pain teaches you to keep going. It teaches you that success isn't about avoiding hardship, but about pushing through it, even when the world seems to be telling you to give up. And this is where things get even deeper. The discipline forged through pain doesn't just impact the external world, but it changes the internal world as well. When you push through pain, when you face difficulty head on, something happens to your inner world. You develop a kind of inner strength, an unshakable belief in your own ability to handle whatever comes your way. You build the internal fortitude to withstand storms because you've been through storms before. You know deep down that you can endure and come out stronger on the other side. It's also important to recognize that this isn't about glorifying suffering for its own sake. Pain in and of itself is not virtuous, but what you do with it, that's where the virtue lies. It's about taking the raw material of pain and transforming it into something great. If you take pain and learn from it, if you allow it to shape your character and refine your discipline, you grow. But if you let pain defeat you, if you become consumed by it, then it has taken from you rather than given. The power lies in your response. In this process, pain teaches you to endure, to carry weight, to hold your ground when life is throwing everything at you. And through this process, you realize that you are capable of more than you ever thought possible. You realize that pain is not the end, it's a gateway to growth. Your ability to endure is what enables you to succeed in the long run. It's not about avoiding pain, it's about recognizing that you are capable of bearing it and using it as fuel for your journey. This is why those who have faced the most adversity are often the most capable. They have been tested, refined, and honed by the challenges they've faced. Their character is unbreakable, their discipline is unwavering, and their resilience is unmatched. It's not that they haven't suffered, they've suffered deeply, but they've used that suffering to become something more than they were before. They've turned pain into power. So as you move through life, remember this: pain is not something to fear, but something to use. It will come as it inevitably does, and when it does, don't ask why me. Ask instead, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? Because that's the choice you have, the choice to let pain shape you into something better, something stronger, something more disciplined. And if you can do that, if you can use pain to build your character and discipline, then there's nothing that can stand in your way. One of the most difficult things to grasp about pain is the idea that it is temporary, that it will eventually pass, that the discomfort you feel today is not a permanent state, but rather a process. We live in a world where everything feels urgent, where we want instant gratification, and we believe that our suffering will go on forever. It's an uncomfortable thought, isn't it? That the pain you're feeling right now, no matter how overwhelming, is just a moment in time. But there is an undeniable truth in that. Temporary pain leads to lasting results. You see, our natural instinct, when we experience pain, be it physical, emotional, or psychological, is to try to escape it. We avoid it, we numb it, we distract ourselves, and that's understandable. Pain is not something we actively seek, but in doing so, we often miss the profound transformation that lies on the other side. The truth is, growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from enduring through those tough moments, those moments when everything within you says, I can't do this anymore. Think about physical training. If you want to build strength, you don't avoid lifting weights because they're heavy and uncomfortable. No, you seek the discomfort because you know that with every rep, with every push, you're tearing your muscles down in a controlled way so they can rebuild stronger than before. The pain, while real, is temporary, and the results, stronger, more resilient muscles, are lasting. It's the same with anything worth achieving in life. The pain you feel in the short term is the necessary price for the gains that will last. Now, it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting everything to be easy, to think that if life were just a little bit smoother, everything would be better. And it's true that some discomforts can be avoided, some are unnecessary. But the great challenge is that the things that truly matter, those things that give life meaning, often come through hardship. Relationships, for example, are built on the trials you face together. You don't learn the depth of a relationship during easy times. You learn it when you've been through something together. You learn it when you've faced adversity, when you've been hurt and forgiven, when you've learned to communicate, compromise, and grow. Those are the moments that make the bond stronger, that give it its depth and resilience. Temporary pain leads to lasting trust, understanding, and connection. The same applies to your career or your personal growth. If you want to build something of significance, you cannot expect to wake up one day with the skills or knowledge that you desire. That only comes through time, effort, and struggle. But this is a struggle with a purpose. When you look at someone successful, they've almost certainly endured their own hardships. Maybe they've worked countless hours, sacrificed time with loved ones, and faced failure after failure. In the moment, it probably felt like they were trapped in a cycle of difficulty, wondering when things would finally get easier. But in hindsight, they can see how that pain, though temporary, was what allowed them to rise. It shaped them into who they are. It built their competence, their resilience, and their character. The mistake we often make is that we view pain as something to be avoided at all costs. We see discomfort as a sign of failure, something we shouldn't have to experience. But this perspective is flawed. Pain isn't an indication that you're on the wrong path. It's a sign that you're on the right one. Growth requires tension, resistance. Think about a tree growing in the wind. The wind bends it, pushes it, sometimes even breaks branches. But without that resistance, the tree wouldn't develop the strength to stand tall. The struggle is what forces the tree to root itself deeper, to grow stronger. And it's the same for us. If you shy away from that resistance, you remain fragile, unable to handle what life throws your way. But if you allow yourself to be shaped by it, you become grounded. You become more than what you were before. And here's another key point. When we experience temporary pain, it often feels as though the suffering will never end. It can feel like an eternity, as if everything we're going through is permanent. The truth, however, is that pain is transient. It ebbs and flows, just like the season. The hard times you're going through right now, whether it's the grind of building a business, the strain of working on your relationships, or the mental toll of self-improvement, will not last forever. But the impact they have on you, the lessons you gain, and the strength you build are lasting. Those results are what stay with you. This is why the long-term perspective is so important. We're often obsessed with the idea that if things don't get better quickly, something's gone wrong. And yes, sometimes we need to take a step back and evaluate where we are. But more often than not, success and growth don't happen overnight. They happen in increments. Every small step forward counts. Every moment of discomfort is contributing to something bigger. It's like planting a tree. You don't expect to see it grow into a giant oak overnight. You plant the seed and you water it, and you take care of it. And over time it grows. The results you want are there. They're just hidden beneath the surface, waiting for you to keep going. But that's what makes them so worthwhile. And this is not just about success in the traditional sense, achievements, career, finances. It's about becoming a better person. When you confront your flaws, when you work on the things that make you uncomfortable, you're slowly but surely improving yourself. Every time you confront your fear, every time you make a choice to be better, you are laying the groundwork for lasting transformation. This isn't something you can see immediately, but years down the line, when you look back, you'll see how far you've come. You'll see the person you've become, stronger, wiser, more resilient, and you'll know that the pain, while difficult at the time, was worth every moment. So yes, the pain you feel today, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, will pass. It is not permanent, but the impact it has on you, the growth it leads to, will stay with you. And that's what truly matters. Life is full of challenges, full of difficulties, but it's how we meet those challenges that shapes who we become. If you can keep this perspective, if you can see the temporary nature of pain and focus on the lasting results, you'll be able to keep moving forward, even when the road feels difficult. It's true, pain can be overwhelming, but when you push through it, when you persist despite it, you emerge stronger. The results are not only worth it, they're transformative. So keep moving, keep growing, and know that the pain you feel today is just the process of becoming who you are meant to be.